Hey, Seka, can I come to the new Ifrit Raid?
No, Escanor. It's a red raid, and you're green.
Ho, ho, ho. I can do it.
No, Escanor. You can't.
Kabuki.
Critical Ovaa! Yo, what's going on, guys? Sekapoko here, bringing you another 7 Listens Grand Cross video. For this, we'll be going over my guide for Ifrit Raid and talking about all the things you need to know about Ifrit Raid in full detail. So, guys, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. We have unlocked Ifrit. Inquired Benimaru. So when we start looking for an Ifrit raid, we just got to do the Rimuru, Tempest, Milim, and Benimaru kind of boss stage event. And you have to just clear it just like a normal boss stage event. It's not really difficult. Just go ahead and spawn it. Takes like all of like 1 minute, just like any pre-boss raid would do. And you can use any of your farming teams. The stage is much less difficult than any of the other pre-star stages. The only thing that's somewhat annoying is Milim's ability to just lock out your ultis, but otherwise it's pretty easy. And we're done. We get the, of course, the food that comes along with it, and you spawn the deathmatch right away, of course, because you're lucky as fuck. And then you get Ifrit. So let's go ahead and talk about Ifrit and talk about what you get out of doing the runs. So for becoming the party leader, you get these fire essences that if you're looking where to obtain them, this is where you get them from doing the Ifrit raid. And on extreme versions, you get 5, 4, or 3 that are going to be available for being, it looks like the party leader exclusive rewards, and then deathmatch victory where you get at least 2. So guaranteed 2, and then up to 5, 4, or 3, depending on, I guess, the version you're doing. So 5 for, I guess, extreme, 4 for hard, and then 3 for normal or something. I don't know. And then of course you get if you get a gold box on the finish, you get 5, 4, or 3, I guess, and then I get like you get basically only an assistance here. So you're getting a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 5. It looks like on the versions. Of course, and then one more look at Rimuru Tempest. When the boss attacks, the affected hero decreases the boss's damage dealt by 30%. So whenever the boss is attacking Rimuru, he actually takes 30% less damage. So that's pretty cool. So that's the strong effect that you have for Rimuru. The combat class requirement for this boss is going to be 190,000 combat class, and then there's going to be no advantageous races, disadvantageous races, or recommended skills are buff, cancel, and rupture. Looking at, I don't know why buff cancel be recommended here, because doesn't he just actually remove debuffs at the end of the turn? Let's go find out. Okay, so first off, on phase 1, he's going to have 597,000 HP with a shield that's going to be massive. And it looks like his shield, let's go ahead and try to find it. So his first ability is become immune to buff cancel and debuffs, and increase defense related stats by 30%, and create a barrier equal to 200% of his defense for 3 turns. If his defense is 13,972, that means it's going to be a shield that's going to be about 28,000 HP or so. So yeah, that's not that big of a shield, but it feels a lot bigger when you hit it. So maybe it's a lot more than that. I don't know. It's only said 200% defense. What? I mean, that seems pretty low. First ability is going to have 2 ranks on it. It's going to only 2. So it's going to do inflict 100% attack to one enemy and cause detonation damage after 2 turns, which is basically an exploding effect. So it'll actually do damage and then explode on the following turn, or in 2 turns, it says here. And the second one, it's going to be do 120% attack as well as do detonation equal to 200% of the damage, so not 100%. Detonation is a triple damage kind of thing, so you did a lot of damage. So this is the single target attack. The area effect attack that he does is going to deplete 1 ultimate gauge orb, and it's going to do 2 ultimate gauge orb at rank 2. So it does 80% attack on both of them. So it's going to hit for, you know, a decent chunk of damage, probably like 10 to 12k damage. So decent AoE on every unit. His other ability is Burning Influence. Burns the target for 3 turns when attacked. Burn additional damage to equal to 10% of max HP, and this can be stacked. So every time that you attack him, you get a burn stack. These burn stacks can be completely canceled by using a specific kind of food. All right, his passive ability is uses Flame Shield every turn. Uses Burning Influence every 3 turns. So every time this Burning Influence is up right here, this Burning Influence thing, every time he uses this ability, it's going to have this little star ability on him, and anytime he is attacked during that section, you actually get the debuff that gives you 10% minus stack. So if you do want to use, do you want to not get that up, the Burning Influence, I think I don't know how long this lasts. I think it lasts until you break the shield, right? So you always get on at least one character. He also, at the start of the turn, is going to increase his skill usage by 2. So it looks like he uses 3 attacks, and then on the other versions, he uses lower amounts of attacks, it looks like. I don't know. He's immune to ignite effects, so you can't use any kind of ignite on him. He's removes debuffs from the hero at the start of his turn. So at the start of his turn, you can't use any debuffs on him because they'll fall off, just like it did on Final Boss King. So if you're wondering, do the debuffs land, then you can use like weakness-based attacks? The answer is yes. And then the last thing, this is bullshit, by the way. Decreases damage taken from counters by 100%. The fuck, bro? We can't even Blue Melee your ass. 100% damage reduction. We tried it, by the way. Blue Melee legit hit this guy for 4K. With a 3-star melee. It was actually dumb as fuck. It wasn't 100%, by the way, so it was a fuckload of damage reducing. No, that was a lot of damage reduction. This is fucked up. This is like the most fucked up ability I've ever seen. Increases attack by 1% at the end of the turn and has no limit. So if you take too long, he actually is going to scale attack infinitely. His next ability is Deathmatch Boss damage taken from Tensura heroes increased by 30%. So if you are using any slime collaboration characters, say Rimuru, you actually take 30%. He actually takes 30% more damage from Rimuru and deals 30% less damage to Rimuru. So if you're wondering why Rimuru is so good for this event, it's because he actually does more damage because he's Rimuru. So yeah, that's cool. So Rimuru, of course, is the best damage unit for the event, and you may not need it though. And finally, the first phase, it increases all damage taken from the skills with Rupture effect by 50%. So if you're using a Rupture-based ability, it actually shows you that you're actually doing 50% more damage in addition to your Rupture-based ability when you use that on the boss. So you actually do more damage because you're using Rupture-based abilities. On the first phase, his ultimate ability is going to be inflicts damage equal to 200% attack on all enemies and decrease skill ranks. So you have a skill rank D-ranker on turn 1, and then actually on phase 2 he has very different abilities. On phase 2 here, he's going to have an ability called Cross Bump. He loses the ability to explode on one enemy, but this Cross Bump is going to do 100% attack on all enemies and ignite them for 3 turns. So it does a frick load of damage and ignites you. The damage taken can increase by 10%, so it's just a normal type of ignite. And then the 2-star ability of this is, of course, going to give you a 120% attack, but still the same amount of ignites. On the second phase here, his buff shield is actually going to be much stronger, and it's actually going to be immune to all immune to buff cancel and debuffs, and increase defense related stats by 30%. Whereas in the first phase, defense related stats by 30%. So like while he has the shield up, it decreases defense related stats, and he does get, I think even after the shield breaks, he still has that up, and he can't really remove it. It sucks. And creates a barrier that's equal to 300% of his attack for defense for 3 turns. So instead of having the original 13,000 times 2, it's now 13,000 times 3. So it's even bigger shield on the second phase. And the burn, of course, is going to be very similar on the second phase. Second phase, you're still going to have Flame Shield every turn and Burning Influence every 3 turns. All the passives are exactly the same as before. There's no difference on any of the passives, but his ultimate ability is different, and it's going to do 200% attack to all enemies and decrease skill ranks and deplete the ultimate gauge by the number of skill ranks decreased. So the major difference between the two ultimates is that you actually just get the decrease on the skill ranks between the first and the second phase. Also, the another thing to note is that his attack jumps up heavily from 13,000 and change to 16,000 and change, so he's actually going to do significantly more damage on the second phase. Last thing to note is that if you wanted to make the food, you can go and make the food with the resources you want. So if you wanted to use the tofu miso soup, you can actually just make it with the ingredients that you're getting from the runs, or you actually just get the food in general. It really just depends on how lucky you get and if you're going to get the food or not. And always, of course, if you're going to be getting the food, click while you're using your bond to get your super success, because it works 90% of the time. It works every time. All right, so I've done this once now, and I haven't done it with gold food effectively. I've done it with the miso food for immune to burn effect, and bringing the miso food like trivializes the difficulty of the fight. So if you want to do a stream, you're having trouble with it, your team's not strong enough, you're not really sure if you can clear it, the miso food is really nice to make the fight a lot easier. And the fire essence food is for when you're ready to farm this and you're all in. Don't use gold food, use the fire essence food. So these are the 2 foods you should be using for this fight. This if you're having trouble with it, and this if you are 100% sure you're gonna clear it and you're farming it. So first turn, just like every other raid, we use just a dump turn and try to get stacks on Gother by putting a shield up with Merlin. So that's the first turn. It would be basically just, you want to chill the fuck out on the first turn, just like every other raid. Get your Merlin up, just chill. Do your thing. The Ifrit food makes this a lot easier, so definitely, yeah. Guys, if I start lagging, bruh in chat, and if I'm not lagging, combat that with pogs. All right, we got to rank up, so that's real good. You can see the shield's going to reset every time, so your damage on turn 1 doesn't really matter that much. And if you get rolled back on turn 1 here, it's kind of unfortunate, but he usually does a single target and an AoE on the first turn here, so you should be okay. So here's a rank up here, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a Merlin shield after the buff. And now we have a buffed Merlin shield, so we should be okay. And then we just, we should have just chilled there. But I guess we're going to go ahead and do damage here. Because if he does damage, I want to do damage too. That's the key. Make sure to do damage when your buddy does damage. Okay. And very nice here is the more ult gauge we all have, the better. Because then we can use multiple ultis on another turn. Boom, boom. So Rimuru with 193,000 damage, and then my Jericho dropping about 200,000 damage. Nice. It looks like the boss has a decent amount of crit defense, so critical strikes don't really help you that much, but it looks like if you do get a lot of critical damage, it's not going to help you. So that's why Matrona Diane versus Jericho versus Rimuru. It doesn't really matter which one you used. Rimuru is obviously going to be the most amount of damage because he's boosted during the event. So he's definitely the primo unit here. You can see he's taking a lot less damage here, and we're taking a significant amount of less damage. All right. So for this turn, we're going to want to rush ultis. We're going to try to get ultis up on every single unit, and that's the best way to do things. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and use this card, and then I'm going to drop 2 Merlin attacks, and we can rush the ultis. And I'm going to save this for the final turn. So now I'm rushing all my ultis. The only ulti I don't have is Go-Through ulti. He should do something similar where he's trying to rush his Rimuru ulti or his Arthur ulti. So getting the Arthur ulti up here would be really, really beneficial. And hopefully we do enough damage here with a rank 2 Jericho to break the shield about this much, and then the 2 Merlins will do enough to kill him, hopefully. Okay, we got a good damage there. Hopefully the Merlin and the Jerichos are enough. He should have rushed the Arthur ulti there, but if he didn't, it's okay. I don't know why he didn't, but he wanted to do a dump, I guess, instead of a move, or he just maybe made a mistake. All right, there we go. And now we're on the second phase. And the second phase here, what we got to do is just full send everything. And by just doing a full send here, we should be fine. So I got 2 ultis here. I'm going to go ahead and drop a Jericho ability to get the damage break on the shield, right? And then I'm going to do a Jericho ulti and a Merlin ulti. And I'm just do as much damage as I can. He didn't rush his Rimuru because he doesn't have enough Rimuru cards this time around, but he's now got the 2 burst Rimurus, so he's going to use that, and that. Now he's going to Rimuru ulti up next turn, potentially, but we'll see. So by cleaving as fast as we can through the extreme stage, through both of the phases, makes it a lot easier. I don't think we're actually going to need everything, but the Merlin damage, you can see, I brought the boss down pretty heavily just by myself. So it is kind of RNG dependent, getting it on good cards, but as you can see here, he didn't even have the best cards, and we were able to clear this without issue. So my recommendation is bringing one of 3 different characters for your DPS character. The first of which, of course, Rimuru, if you do have him. Second of which is Matrona Diane, she's also good. And the third of which is SR Jericho. And SR Jericho, you can see, does comparable damage, does pretty good damage overall. I probably, if you're a free-to-play player, it's definitely the recommended unit I would use. It's a lot easier to use. All right, so let's go over some of the DPS units that you could be using for this raid and talking about what units would be really good here and what units would be, okay. And the number 1 free-to-play unit I'm going to be recommending, of course, is going to be Red Jericho. And Red Jericho is a fantastic unit. She has a great passive that gives strength characters increased attack-related stats, and she's also going to give herself 2 different attack abilities, and both of which will do damage in the fight. The first ability that she has is a bleed attack, which doesn't do a ton of damage on this fight, but it does give you some little chip damage when you do need it a little bit later, so that does help out. It's very similar to some of the other characters having damage here. And the second ability is Pain Blade, and this ability has Rupture. And because you have that increased damage on Rupture abilities, this ability hits incredibly hard. And the reason I recommend building this character out for free-to-play players is because this character is used for 4 different things. The first thing it's used for, of course, is this set of concept we're in right now. The second thing you'd be using this character for is a combined attack unit for green Bond if you don't have your green Bond already built, green Jericho already built out, or if you want to use green Bond and green Jericho on the same team, you can use red Jericho for that as well. The third thing you can use it for is going to be Final Boss Merlin, which will come into the game much later. And the fourth thing you can use this character for is actually on a mono red team if you're looking to boost out a damage on a mono red team. Seeing how the mono red teams are going to be like Twigod, you got other characters there like Arthur, and they're all human and they're all boosting each other. That could be another alternative for you to using a DPS character on a mono red team. Her ultimate ability does 455% damage to one enemy, and at max ultimate, I believe it's like over 800, so it does a decent amount of damage to one enemy. And I think I'm over hitting like 200,000 damage when I'm doing the runs. It's really nice. She also shares cosmetics, of course, with the green Jericho, so you get a lot of different cosmetics that you already may have, because Jericho is a character that many people have built out already. As far as substats go, she doesn't really have great pierce rate, crit chance rate, she has very high crit damage, decent defensive stats, and actually gets 10% lifesteal, so you do get a little bit of lifesteal back here. And all the cosmetic stuff that you're going to get from Jericho already goes onto this Jericho, so you should be okay. Next, we're going to go over the primary DPS unit for play-to-play, or if you're looking for the best possible DPS unit, is going to be Blue SSR Rimuru, obviously, and he, of course, does a 450% damage on Rupture, just like Jericho is able to do 450% damage on Rupture, so there's no real damage difference there. And since he's blue, he's going to have type advantage damage, so it's an extra 30% damage there, plus another 30% damage on top of that for being part of the Slime collab, or the Tensura collab, if you wanted to, for legal reasons or whatever, He doesn't really have anything really valuable here besides his other ability, which is his ultimate ability, which actually can remove buffs and stances on the enemy, and that's kind of good, but it's not like incredible for this fight. Also, you get a Meliodas support link here, so you give yourself an extra combined attack, so you give you a little bit extra damage. And since you have SR Meliodas already built out for many other characters in the game, it's really nice to have him for this. You also get a lot of free collaboration event cosmetics with him, and all of these are obtainable in the game right now, and you can get all of these free to play by just playing the game. So this is actually a very nice character for this, and very free to play friendly-ish. If you do, pick him up through the banner. It's not the most free-to-play friendly unit, and it definitely is not like a recommend unit for a lot of people if you don't want to pull for him or use him. There are other units you can use. Next up, we have Blue Matrona Diane, and Blue Matrona Diane is also an incredible unit for this fight. She does tons of damage, and she's probably the primo DPS unit that I would be going for if I really wanted to build out a Blue King. So if I already have a Blue King built out and I'm starting to work on a Matrona, of course I built out of the Blue Matrona or the Red Matrona at this point, and of course if I'm working on cosmetics for that Matrona and trying to build out my Blue King ultimate and making sure that I get a lot of combined attack stats, this is a great character to build out for that. And this character is actually a very strong unit for two reasons. First off, she has a Rupture ability that's really good for this fight, and the second reason she's good is because of her passive ability. She's actually going to gain critical chance by the value of her critical resistance, and she actually starts the fight with a total of 50% critical resistance, giving her a total of 80% critical chance at the start of the fight. You don't actually need to build out critical resistance on her during this fight to get even more critical resistance, but if you did want to, you can, and it does help you out there. Unfortunately, though, the thing with her critical damage being very low, only at 140%, the boss's critical defense is going to negate most of the damage that you're going to get from these critical strikes, so you're really not going to see big gains on the critical damage here because her critical damage is too low. But her ultimate ability, of course, has Pierce and does decent damage, and her second ability does have a decent amount of damage with 360% attack, so it does pretty similar damage to the Red Jericho ability, but it does, of course, have that type advantage and gives you a little bit of extra bump with 30% more damage from that. Overall, she has a lot of cosmetics. She also did have lots of fist cosmetics. And what's really interesting about this character is that on the original Japanese release, we actually didn't have cosmetics for the Matrona, giving her any kind of weapon cosmetics for an edge against Rimuru. So she really couldn't compete against Rimuru's damage, but she was a very good unit for the event in general. Next up, we have a couple other units that people have been mentioning on my stream, and I didn't actually try these units out, but people have been talking about them. A couple people said they were trying to use Arthur with Galland, or using Arthur with, of course, Blue Lizhawk to use the amplify damage to get this done. And I thought it was an okay strategy to do. And what's really kind of sucky about Blue Lizhawk on this fight is that the burn effect that you're getting from the boss does not increase the passive on Elizabeth, but the ignite effect on the second phase does increase the stacks that you get, and you can use multiple stacks of your digestibility in order to give lots of solidifies on your characters on that phase if you did want to. Elizabeth does an okay amount of damage in this fight, and I do recommend if you do have her built already to try her if you want to. I don't think she's going to be the best unit in the game for this, but she is a very good unit for this. Supporting units, I recommend, of course, using Go Through because you can actually get his stacks passed up if you use a Merlin bubble with him or try to get him up. His ultimate ability is also very helpful for the first phase to make sure that you don't die on the first phase, and using it is very, very helpful in order to lower the boss's ultimate gauge. So that's also a great way to go. Otherwise, Go Through just for rank ups. He's really, really good just for that main ability. Giving you the 3-star cards is super, super helpful. So my recommend right now is the Merlin because there's a couple of reasons I like Merlin. One, the perfect cube that she puts up is actually very, very nice to use to block out a lot of the damage that you're going to get from the Ifrit Raid. And making it so that you can block out that damage is really, really helpful because by blocking out all those big AoE ultis, you're actually able to use ultimates on the second phase and the fight becomes a lot easier. And because you're able to use her Spear Explosion ability and roll back the boss's ultimate gauge, it does help you with the first phase and stalling out the first phase just a little bit. So you do get, in case you get some weird RNG and lots of Merlin cards and lots of her Spear Explosion abilities as well as Perfect Cube abilities, you can actually just stall out in that until you get the cards you really want. The other thing that's nice, of course, is Merlin does have the Ultimate Gauge Rush passive, so you do get your ultimates just a little bit faster. The next unit I recommend, of course, is going to be Arthur, and Arthur's a recommend here because he's going to boost human-related stats, and if you're using a Jericho comp with this, you're actually going to boost your Jericho's HP-related stats, giving yourself a little bit extra damage. Plus, Jericho is going to boost the Arthur, which is going to be nice, because by using Arthur and Jericho together, you're getting a little bit more damage, so as a free-to-play team, you're going to get a little bit more out of that. So you're getting the Royal Sword ability, giving you 30% buffs to your characters, and giving you 4 buffs on your characters, including debuff immunity. It does not block the burn effect that you're going to get for reducing HP by 10%, but it does help you a little bit. And Arthur's ultimate damage does do a decent amount of damage here, so you can use that to get a little bit more damage in. The other unit I could recommend doing, but I have not tried yet, and I may try tomorrow or the next day, is going to be Green Gale Thunder. And the reason I would try Green Gale Thunder is because, for one, he has the 60% attack buff that you can get, and of course, he has a Rupture-based ability. And Rupture abilities, as we saw, are boosted by 50%, so you're going to actually get a little bit more damage in your Gale Thunder here, and you may get enough chip damage on the first phase with a Gale Thunder, and actually might do even more damage than an Arthur. But I have yet to try it out, so I do want to try it out probably on Wednesday or Thursday, and try that out just a little bit. Also, his ultimate abilities, being a single target ultimate ability, is very, very nice and can do a large amount of damage. That could be helpful as well. Probably a lot less damage than the Arthur ability, but will do a good chunk of damage as well. Guys, my name's Sekapoko. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you guys did enjoy the video, of course, like and subscribe. It always helps out the channel. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys do want to support the channel, of course, every little bit helps out. Every like does help out a lot. So thank you guys for coming out and doing that. A lot of getting us to over 31,000 subs now. We're going to be getting an average of 500 to 1,000 subscribers new a day. So that's really, really cool. Thank you guys so much for that. Have a great day, guys. Peace.